I'm Kevin Gleason, and I'll be your host this week as Varsity 845. The show breaks down the Section 9 football championships. I'm here with your regular host, Kevin Witt, who's in the expert's chair once again to give us his take on this weekend's 5 title games. We'll get to the weekly top 10 rankings later, but let's first talk about the best 3 days in local football. With berths in the state tournament on the line, emotions will be running high at Dietz Stadium in Kingston. In Class AA, it's a battle of 2 unbeatens, Monroe-Woodbury and Minisink Valley. In Class A, it's Cornwall versus Wallkill. New Paltz takes on Burke Catholic in Class B. Class C is an all-Sullivan County battle, with Sullivan West playing Tri-Valley. And in Class D, Chester plays Eldred. We'll start in Class AA. Kev, this just shapes up to be an unbelievable game with 2 unbeatens. They haven't played each other all season. Minisink Valley's having one of its best seasons in years. How do you see this thing panning out?
Well, this game is a showcase for the rest of the state to see just how far Section 9 football has come in the last 5 years. You have 2 teams that are ranked in the top 8, and in this game, that's never happened before. You have Monroe-Woodbury at number 1, you have Minisink Valley at number 8. And Minisink Valley is a legitimate number 8, too. You don't rise this far this late in the season without being a very good football team. And on a local level, the fact that these 2 teams have not played each other this year, normally this game ends up being a rematch, but these teams have not played, so there's a ton of enthusiasm and a lot of interest here.
Now, Monroe-Woodbury is the state's top-ranked team, and they've steamrolled through its competition this year, and Minisink Valley's had a pretty easy way with its competition as well. But we all know how good Monroe-Woodbury is. How good is Minisink Valley, and is Minisink Valley a big-time underdog in this game?
Minisink Valley is a very good football team. And Minisink Valley is going to be able to move the ball on Monroe from what we've seen so far at Monroe-Woodbury. H.R. Rotolo, running back from Minisink, I love this kid. The kid plays hard, he battles, he's tough. And if Minisink can move the ball, which I think it can, that means Monroe-Woodbury doesn't have it. And that's where this game is going to come down to, is if Minisink can stop Monroe's offense.
It would seem to be a classic matchup of a team that has to eat up some clock, get its ground game going, sustain real long drives, and keep Monroe off the field.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that this game is going to be in the 10-point range most of the time, and I can see Monroe scoring maybe early in the 4th quarter. I kind of like this game maybe 31-14, but it's going to be a close 10.
This should be one of the most intriguing matchups of the season. It really should. Moving on to Class A, we have Cornwall facing Wallkill. And there's a game where, on paper, it really doesn't seem to be a real close game, given the fact that Cornwall beat Wallkill 39-0 in the regular season matchup. Has Wallkill done anything since that game to lend you to believe that they can win this game?
No. Wallkill got a couple kids back, but the matchup just doesn't seem to be there. I think Wallkill is going to have a tough time stopping Cornwall. If I'm looking at this from the Cornwall side, I think Cornwall's going to win this game. I can see by 3 touchdowns, to be honest with you. But what Cornwall needs to do is to get itself sharp as it gets ready to move on to the next level. Because if Cornwall plays the way it did last week and the last couple weeks on offense, the season's over next week.
Cornwall ranked 2 in the state, coming off a season in which it made it to the state final. Can Cornwall do essentially what it did last year and get up to the Carrier Dome?
Well, that kind of all depends on next week. I mean, you have to get through whoever the Section 1 champion is going to be. I mean, that's always been the big hurdle for years and years and years for our teams. So at that point, once you get by once you get by this week, style points mean nothing. I mean, you can make the case they don't anyway,
right,
but it's just about winning and getting on to the next game.
Moving on to the Class B game, we have New Paltz facing John S. Burke Catholic. That's kind of an intriguing game too, Kev, because both those teams won last week. They didn't really exactly show that they were unbeatable, either one of those teams last week in their semifinal games. Do you see either team having a major edge in this game, or do you see this game being one of those games where it might be decided in the last 3 or 4 minutes?
I can definitely see it coming down that way. New Paltz won 15-14 on a very hot Thursday afternoon in September when the team played the last time. New Paltz has a little bit of a quarterback situation with Mike LaBrosse, the starter in the run-and-shoot offense, has a broken hand on his throwing hand. So that's a problem. Last week, Robert Buther-Jones came in, a little more of a running kind of kid, can throw the ball, and as we saw, certainly has the right attitude and mentality about coming off the bench. He's in the game anyway as like a flanker or a back, but I mean, has the right attitude to come into this game. Burke doesn't throw the ball. Runs the wing tee. Steve Ferrazera had a tremendous game last week. I can see this being like 19-13, but maybe a late score with somebody, either way. I mean, I said Burke in the beginning of the year, and I just kind of like the way Burke is doing things right now. And I think an uncertain quarterback situation, I can appreciate the ability to do it, but I think you need some stability there a little bit as well. Yeah,
I like Burke's running game. In addition to Ferrazera, they have a couple other good guys who can run the ball in that backfield. Moving on to the Class C game, we have Tri-Valley facing Sullivan West. There's another game that would seem to be a pretty interesting matchup. I mean, Tri-Valley won the earlier season matchup 13-7. Is this another nail-biter?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. This is a classic Sullivan County game. These teams have a little bit of history last few years. Sullivan West is the two-time defending champion here. I really like the fact that the quarterback, Jimmy Maloney, is still there. This is going to be his third championship game to try to win, and you cannot match that experience.
Moving on to the Class D game featuring Chester versus Eldred. Now, Kev, this game earlier in the season had a pretty interesting scenario take place. Tell us a little bit about what happened in that game.
Well, it was a question. Chester won the game 14-13, but there was a question of whether an Eldred extra point counted. The guy who was running the scoreboard thought it did. It turns out it didn't. They found out later. Everyone got all upset about it, blah, 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 blah. You know what? Now here we are 6 weeks later or whatever it is, and you know what? Nobody cares because this is the game that matters. I mean, I'm sure there'll be some motivation on both sides, but I really just, it's going to be a game. Chester this year has played a brutal schedule, non-league schedule, played all of the Class C schools, and also played Highland and Ellenville. Ron Stover has constantly said how much he needed to get better by having the schedule that he played better. And I really think a lot of Eldred's program, Eldred's had some success this year. I can just see this one being like an 18-12 Chester game.
Sounds great, Kevin.
Now on to this week's set of top 10 rankings. Number 10, New Paltz plays Burke Catholic Sunday for the Section 9 Class B title. Number 9, Port Jervis had state-ranked Cornwall on the ropes for the second straight time. Number 8, Warwick had the unenviable draw of Monroe Woodbury in the Class AA semifinals. Number 7, Kingston drops one spot after the Valley Central loss, but belongs here. Number 6, Valley Central didn't make the Class AA playoffs, but should be happy with a 6-3 season. Number 5, Newburgh nearly upset Menacing Valley, so it stays 5th despite the loss. Number 4, Delaware Valley, Pennsylvania. Unbeaten Warriors play at 8-1 West Scranton on Friday. Number 3, Cornwall. Unbeaten in its championship game, but drops because right now it is not the second best team. Number 2, Menacing Valley. Gutted its way into the Class AA title game, rallying late to beat Newburgh. And number 1, Monroe Woodbury, shooting for its 4th straight sectional Class AA title. That's it for this week's edition of Varsity 845, the show. For Kevin Gleason, I'm Kevin Witt. See you at Deep Stadium.
This is 845, Varsity man up. It's game time, everybody stand up. From my town to yours, we ready for sure. From the field to the court, yeah, we ready for war. This is 845, Varsity man up. It's game time, everybody stand up. From my town to yours, we ready for sure. From the field to the court, yeah, we ready for war. I said it's game time.